Welcome back, everybody. Today, more on Trump's copper top building and how it signaled his copper-crowned future presidency. Yes, the orange man is the king of copper. The 5G copper wires in the base stations. We're seeing copper double in price. He is the king of copper, the snake we let in. Now, before we get into all that, follow up on yesterday's show about the U.S. soldier named Sasha who gave his testimony about what Trump did to him at 13 years old. Yesterday's video was, let's just put it this way. I got to be careful with the words now because they are basically have more censorship now than we ever have before in history. They really do not want this information to come out. They hate being forced to cover this in the mainstream news, which now Sasha's story has become mainstream news. As we said, it would likely have to be because of the allegations. I'll show you that story in a minute. But now, within hours after the show yesterday, it has been picked up by the mainstream outlets. Here is MSN, who is Lisa Noel Volding. This was the lady who broke the story. She leaked Sasha's alleged Easting audio tapes. So they're now covering it. And of course, to give fair balance, unfortunately, Sasha got some really questionable tattoos in the recent years. One was the spiral that we all know about. We covered that about 10 years ago on this channel, the spiral symbol, and some dragons and stuff like that. I can imagine after you've gone through something like this, what he went through, none of us can really imagine, right? But there may have been tendencies to continue the abuse or to fall in line with the abuse that he had happened to him. This is how it happens. This is how it works. He even stated in his testimony that he was forced to end the life of someone he loved very much because it was a mercy killing. He was only 13 years old. And so you can imagine what's going through the mind of someone who maybe thinks that they are damned forever. So I don't judge him on what he did a couple of years ago. I judge him on coming forward and finally exposing the evil instead of joining in with it. I'm just giving you fair balance because the first thing you're going to see when you go and look this person up is his demonic tattoos. He was an MMA fighter. This is what they did. This is what fighters do. You know, a lot of them. So there's something to this. Now, we will be following this story. We will be following up on this tomorrow. Trafficking is real. It is very, very real. I spoke to one of you yesterday that shared a story about your sister in Alaska who was actually this happened to, and it's some of the same exact scenarios in crates, dedicated pilots, dedicated airstrips, private airstrips, private planes, people with licenses to fly, undetected, people as cargo, children used as essentially toys for the elite. It's all happening. The problem is we don't have the mettle to face our biggest fears. People that come on and say, how is this helping us? Well, it's helping us because these victims need our support. If we can't even talk about this stuff, how is it ever supposed to change? And this is what the elite are banking on. And now I'm starting to wonder if these people do the horrific acts so that it will sound so unbelievable that no one will want to face it. Maybe that's part of this as well. And I would like to maybe interview some of these people, but I'm not sure people are ready for this yet. Look at the comments from yesterday's show. About a third of you didn't even believe the guy. So I'm not going to bring a person on here only to have them torn down and not believed. You know, that we're not going to do that. So we have some work to do, don't we? To try to come to terms with what's really happening. We've been covering stuff like this for an entire decade. Adrenochrome was all about this, you guys. and placing the maximum amount of fear into a child or an innocent, and then somehow harvesting that. Now, I don't know how the harvesting mechanism works, but this is real. So it's no surprise when a victim comes forward and it starts describing these kinds of things, right? So it's not a far stretch of the imagination for those of you that decided to tap out, who just don't want to deal with this. Now, Trump will likely have to respond at some point because this has now gone mainstream. Somebody in Congress is going to respond to this. Hopefully the Epstein file people that are trying to get the files released still as we speak will come forward and try to do something about this. Give this man a voice. Now, let's look at some of the follow-up on this. More proof. Okay, this is the guy here. Sasha gave the full name of his father. The guy's still walking around. He's 76 years old. He is a documented helicopter pilot, just as Sasha said he was. He was the guy flying these children all around, just like Ghislaine Maxwell. And this is how they were able to move the children undetected. So someone looked up his father in the Epstein files, and lo and behold, a man by the same name appears in the files. The problem is it's hard to confirm whether it's the same Bill or William Riley. Why? Because the man in the files posed as a private investigator. If, in fact, he was the same Bill Riley, that would mean that he would have had to have been posing as an investigator. Now, we know this happens. And it's interesting because when you go into the Epstein files, you actually can see the testimony of the person that came into contact with Bill Riley and basically told him to F off because the victim was like going, "Who are you?" And this happens. They track these victims. They gaslight them, right? They gang stalk them to see how much they know or see how much they're willing to talk about. And then they can decide if they're going to take this person out. Now, all this is allegations, of course, right? But there's no way to prove this one way or the other until all the files are released, and so until we can identify exactly who the Bill Riley of the Epstein files is. Now, to prove that this is the same guy, he started altering his Facebook page once he started getting heat. He was following Lindsey Graham, which was a person that was named by Sasha. He named Lindsey Graham as one of the people present. He couldn't pin down the crime. You got to remember, these people have been drugged. They've been drugged. This is why their memories aren't that good. They drug them before they transport them, so they're not screaming and hollering from inside the crate. They go to sleep. They wake up. They're in a different place. They are sending these children to other countries. This is what's happening on our government watch. You think that an airplane going from Alaska to Russia, for instance, in one scenario, you think our military doesn't know that that's happening? Do you see the problem here? Of course our military knows. They have radar. If there's a plane flying from Alaska to Russia, they're going to know about it. This is one huge cover-up. We all know it. We all know it. Now, again, Sasha named Lindsey Graham as one of the people present, and this is exactly who his father was following. He has now erased that, but people got screenshots. So they're already starting to alter and cover up the trail, the paper trail. And this is why there are two people in this world. People like me and most of you who will help get to the bottom of these things when allegations are made. We had someone not screenshotted this, is what I'm trying to say, we would have never known, right? If everyone said, you know what, I'm going to click off this channel because I'm not edified, and nobody looked into this stuff, they would just continue to get away with it. Wouldn't they have? But there are people like me and most of you who did want to dig into this, and they found that he was following Lindsey Graham, which confirms this man's testimony. It corroborates part of the story. right? And if the man named William Riley in the Epstein files, if we can get his identification, we would realize that another part of Sasha's story could be corroborated, in which he said Epstein was in the ring that he was involved in as a child, but that Trump was the ring leader. Now understand that here's more evidence. Sasha was adopted in 1977. He literally provides his adoption papers with the name of his father. And this was in 1977. Okay, so this isn't just a made up story, you guys. There's something to this. This isn't just a Democrat, hoax. I mean, this is what Trump wants you to believe. Sure, this is what he'll say when he's confronted with this by reporters. Not only was he adopted, he was adopted for the sole purpose of being moved around. Let's put it that way, because if we keep saying the other word, we'll get flagged too, and no one will see this. Shame on YouTube for hiding this information by making us tiptoe around what we say. We should be able to talk about these things and investigate these things. But here are the adoption papers. Now, Sasha says the real demon in this story is his mother. He names her as well. But here are the papers. This actually says the 8th day of August. Whoa, there you go. 88. This says 78. He said 77. But now, he was born in 73. Gosh, that's the same year I was born. He was born in Germany. He was born on June 23rd. But somehow made it to a family here in the United States. Wow. Look at this. The final order entered is above style cause on Trump's birthday, June 14th, 1973. This is when the final order came in. See if we can see this better. Wow. Unbelievable. So before you write all this off as fake, understand that a lot of documentation and cover-up is happening as we speak. This isn't some empty testimony. And your courage in facing this stuff down is what empowers even more victims to come forward. Imagine if Jesus and the disciples said, we don't want to do exorcisms of people that are demonically possessed. It's too scary. We're not edified. Let's just go and preach the gospel and forget about all that. I can imagine we would live in a different world if that hadn't happened. So our task as Christians is to face these demons down and do something about it. At least talk about it and spread the word if we have a platform to do so, or be part of the people investigating this. Anybody can be part of the fight for good. Now, here's another person. We have to call him. Jeez, can't even call him what he is. Timothy Busfield. Remember this guy? The husband of Laura Ingalls from Little House on the Prairie. And they don't say it in the recent news statements. I guess he's already turned himself in. He was 3 days on the lam, as they say, essentially running. He finally turned himself in, says he's innocent. But because these two boys came forward, these are the twins. I'll click off of that. They came forward and made the claim. Another girl was empowered to come forward. So this is how it works. If no one starts coming forward, investigates it, or takes people seriously, then no one else will know that it's safe to come forward. If we hadn't learned anything by the Epstein files, it's exactly what happened. Thousands of victims came forward. Had we all said, oh, it's too scary, it's too unbelievable, then none of them would have come forward. And at some point, you become spiritually responsible for turning and looking the other way. Think of the story of the Samaritan. Had Jesus turned and looked the other way and not helped, then that would have been wrong. We have to at least acknowledge that this stuff's happening. Timothy Busfield faces new allegations from a 16-year-old girl. So now we have twins, and now we have a 16-year-old girl. But her father says the actor begged for therapy instead of the police. So here's how they cover it up. We now live in a reality where it's more scary. Think about this for a second. We now live in a reality where it's more scary for children to come forward and tell the truth than it is the abuse they suffered. Shame on us as a society. Shame on us. Because it's now more scary for a child to come forward and face the abuse and report it than it is for them for the abuse they suffered. Victim blaming. Yes. Now let's get into this Trump copper top matrix. I just wanted to do a follow-up because I was a little bit shocked at the replies that I got. Now there were a couple of bots in the chat yesterday. I've since blocked them. How do I know they're bots? Because after the show, I always look back through the chat. I clicked on it. On each of the people, there was one from China. And each of the different profiles originated on YouTube in the same exact year and date on their YouTube profile. That would be a bot confirmed, right? This is why we have to do a level of cleaning house in the chat. I know some of you hate that I do that, but otherwise, do you want to be influenced by something that's not real? A bot? Of course you don't. You don't want to have your mind changed by something that's not real. So therefore, they have been blocked from the channel. So I don't just block anybody, but I do a little bit of research. I go, okay, when was this channel originated? And both originated on the same date. So goodbye. You're not real. It was, and here's the creepy part. It goes all the way back to the infancy of YouTube. It was like 2007. I was like, whoa, that's trip. So, no, Christy, I'm not blocking people that disagree. I just explained to you why I blocked them. I clicked on each of the profiles. I went to their profile, and both profiles from different accounts originated on the same exact date in the same exact year on YouTube. That's not a real profile. One was Chinese and one was something completely different. Okay, let's do a poll before we get into this. See, this is what I have to deal with. Unbelievable. So irritating. Is it okay? Do you think blocking obvious troll accounts confirmed with matching origin channel dates is okay? Okay, let's start the poll. Jeez. Sometimes I'm shocked. I'm shocked sometimes. I'm just shocked. That's all I can say. I'm going to stop. I know how some people feel about that. To me, that's not censorship. They're not real. And I don't block just anybody. I only block the things that I can confirm are fake. And we have chat rules, of course. You come in, you be nice. You can disagree. You can even say you love Satan. Fine. I'm not going to block you for that. I'm going to block you for being rude or being not nice. Because we're being nice here. We're having a discussion. All right. We'll let that poll ride. Now, let's get into the copper top matrix. Now, understand that this particular video that I'm going to show you next is from the year 2020. It's a person of interest episode. And this came under heavy copyright attack. So I had to pretty much remove most of the clips. but I'm going to try to fill in the gaps for you. This is important. This is about Trump's copper top building. And this person of interest episode aired 2 months before Trump would assume his run for presidency, or announce his run for the presidency. So he was not president yet. He had just announced his candidacy in 2015. Let's watch this.
Mr. Reese? I was thinking that you and Detective Fusco might stop by the bank.
So they stopped by the bank. Let's refresh this. Okay. Change the speed. Okay. Let's go.
Mr. Reese? I was thinking that you and Detective Fusco might stop by the bank.
Might stop by the bank. Might stop by the bank.
Which has recently found new ownership.
Recently found new ownership. Of course, 40 Wall Street was sold to Trump in 1995 on Pearl in the Harbor Day. Let's keep watching.
Which has recently found new ownership.
Now, there were other films filmed at 40 Wall Street, but this is the confirmation that Person of Interest was filmed there. Dark Knight Rises was also filmed at Trump Tower. Let's keep watching. Now, it's a retail bank, an old retail bank is what they're saying here in the dialogue. One of its hubs was an old retail bank. As the story begins to materialize, which recently found something. So here were the pneumatic tubes.
Secured government buildings.
Smuggle murder weapons into highly secured government buildings.
Did I leave a breadcrumb? Just wondering what's up your sleeve. Trapdoor. Pneumatic tubes rigged with C4.
Pneumatic tubes. Now remember, pneumatic tubes were used by banks to transfer funds. This was before we had wire transfers and these kinds of things. And all these interior shots here were filmed at Trump's 40 Wall Street bank in this Person of Interest episode.
Pneumatic tubes rigged with C4.
Here is the copper top building, 40 Wall Street.
We're in the back trench.
They go down into the vault. Then I showed the vault from The Wiz, The Wizard of Oz.
May I welcome you to the Emerald City?
The Emerald City full of pyramids. Kind of looks like the same vault, doesn't it? That's the World Trade Center. That's the courtyard of the World Trade Center, with emeralds in the middle. That, of course, is Michael Jackson, Diana Ross in The Wiz. Michael Jackson is dressed as a scarecrow. Diana Ross is Dorothy. And there you see Oz. Now, this is the eye that used to sit in the middle of the courtyard of the World Trade Center. The Oz is the eye. The eye is the portal. Portal sacrifice. Looking glass. A lot of things changed after 2001, didn't they? Probably something to do with the huge sacrifice that occurred. Here's the pneumatic tube mail network. Here you can see it, Lower Manhattan. This shows you how the money was moved around, the circulatory system of money. Subterranean tubes filled with hot air is what they were filled with. This is how they moved the money around through these tubes. For some of you that worked in banks, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The tubes were filled with helios, hot air, helium, you could say. Not really helium, but hot air. The hot air connection.
Delivering mail and money. American ingenuity at its finest.
American ingenuity at its finest. And there you see the pneumatic tubes. This is the circulatory system. It's money.
and you would have me flee like a coward.
Everything you say about me is true. I'm a phony. I got no powers. I got no right to be pretending to be the weak.
The coward. And finally, they find the Wizard of Oz hiding behind the hot air balloon of the Wizard of Oz. Remember, he came in a hot air balloon.
It's got nothing hocus pocus. I'm just plain old Herman Smith from Atlantic City.
Atlantic City? Atlantic City?
Atlantic City, Trump's claim to fame.
Just a second-rate politician from District 7.
Public office is the last refuge of the incompetent.
I'm incompetent. So much so, I could never get elected to public office. I ran for any and everything. Alderman, councilman, assembly leader. I became a laughing stock. I couldn't even get on the ticket. One desperate grandstand play, you know what it is?
He literally says he was a politician. Wow.
I ran a hot air balloon.
In the hot air balloon, the helium.
Hot air. That's a perfect vehicle for you.
It was a beautiful 4th of July day. I planned to fly over the boardwalk and the beach.
Hot air balloon, the 4th of July. Trump's going to celebrate the 4th of July, the 250th year anniversary of America, with an MMA fight at the White House.
One leaflet to the study crowd below. My motto was, vote for Smith. Just when I got up in the balloon, a terrible storm came up and blew me into the clouds. I got lost. I landed here in Oz. They'd never seen a hot air balloon like mine before. They proclaimed me the wizard. Now, I needed a job.
So essentially, he says he was a corrupt politician, got in a hot air balloon, went through some kind of portal, landed in Oz. They started worshiping him because of the Helios, because of Apollo. He had special abilities. Maybe he knew the future. The looking glass. Helios is Apollo. Yes, they say they're not, but they really are. Variations of each. Wow. Helios, the physical sun, and Apollo was also the physical sun, but they don't want you to make that connection, do they? Now let's keep going. Trump was elected on Dunce Day.
Exactly. In this day and age, a fugitive crime lord like yourself remains.
So, fugitive crime lord.
Lot's wife couldn't help but look back at the burning city, and she burst into a pillar of salt. Do you know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? You said yourself you're good at shutting your eyes. The world is about to catch fire.
Wow. Person of interest.
A better world.
Time to make a deal.
Detective Riley, the Elias era is over. New world order. I want the keys to the city.
There are no keys. No arrangements.
Now remember, Samaritan was the computer program, I believe, in Person of Interest that could pretty much predict the future or when someone was going to die. We now have the very same thing with Palantir's Project Gotham under Trump. It's the same technology. They can anticipate crime, pre-crime they call it, before it happens. It's a kind of looking glass technology. Here's Trump with the key. That was Janus. He also had a key. Janus was the two-faced god, the Bifron's god, who had two faces. Biff, Bifrons.
No arrangements.
BB Yahoo Netten, I call him, because you can't even say his name anymore, gave Trump a key. Trump had a lot of keys. He was the key president.
May 6th, what have you heard?
any operations in and around the capital, I have reason to believe an attack is going to take place in the next 24 hours. It's called the Correction.
Operational quarantine.
Do not disturb, nobody in or out. Columbia Heights.
Lock down all the exits. Lock down all the exits.
Quarantine address, Columbia Heights.
Get the ratchet.
Take some balls running off the books ops on a quarantined address. Why are we breaking into this place?
That quarantine order from research? I never ordered it.
Lock down all the exits.
15 laptops, huh? Started?
I'm trying to avoid a shutdown, actually. That smell.
Ammonium nitrate, fertilizer.
Why's the lid cut off?
Built a bomb.
With a wave of brownouts spreading across the U.S., experts expect power surges and outages of the East Coast and into the greater New York area.
John, look out your window.
On the power lines, do you see any boxes?
I see one. It's marked with a T. Why?
But why are we allowed to see what's inside?
Whoa, marked with a T. 5G boxes. The copper matrix.
What's the worst that could happen?
Last guy who had your job, he opened up one of those boxes. Next day he was gone.
We've been replacing these things for how many months now? You've never been tempted to see what's inside.
Literally telling you that the people, the technicians, replacing the boxes on the networks don't even know what's inside. Just do your job. We'll pay you 6 figures. Just do your job. Don't ask any questions. You'll have a pension while they're building our own prison.
It's a line conditioning box. It's all you need to know. It's all I know.
With a big T on it. T for Trump. He signed 5G and beyond into law under his first presidency during the lockdowns.
You're the boss.
Thorn from, what was it called? Thorn Industries from The Omen. Remember all the connections we made with that to Trump?
You're the boss.
Thornhill Utilities. Let me check in with you guys. I just can't even believe how exact the predictive programming is. Let's end this poll. Okay, so let's keep going with this. Person of interest, if you're just tuning in, predictive programming centered around Trump's 40 Wall Street, which is where this particular episode was filmed. Let's keep going.
The machine is here. It's here because it's everywhere.
The machine gave up its location to save our lives.
This is one of any number of city substations devoted to the distribution of electricity across the southern half of New York. The machine is using the power grid as a giant brain. So when the machine moved itself, it didn't go to a data farm. It went into the wires. It uploaded itself directly into the nation's electrical grid. Essentially, there's a tremendous amount of unused space in copper power lines.
You can't get any more exact than that. They're literally telling you copper power lines.
The boxes on the lines allow the machine's digital signals to travel in that space.
A highly complex computational system hiding in plain sight.
Most coins are copper. 5G needs copper for its base stations. Trump is now literally the king of copper. And his 40 Wall Street building is the king of his buildings, and it has a copper top. Do you get it now? I hope you do. Now, over time, as technology increased, the pneumatic tubes were replaced with the electric network, which will soon be replaced with 5G.
Samaritan, we need to pull the feeds. Line the damn thing now.
Why would we blind the single greatest watchdog America has ever had?
And Samaritan is his weapon. There's gonna be a bomb that detonates here in D.C. tomorrow. You know how the wheels spin in this city? A few pawns get fired, but the person who's really responsible just gets a bigger checkbook.
Real control is invisible, surgical. It interferes only when necessary. Most of humanity is docile, pliant. It's only ever a few hundred people that create all of the problems.
Wow. Only a few hundred people are the ones creating all the problems. Well, now, they've affected how people have influence, hence why I got a little irritated earlier in the show. The reason why people don't have influence is because we allow the machine, the bots and things to come in and create artificial influence. That's the problem. We have to fight against that.
We haven't failed yet. You had an impossible challenge. One I never programmed you for.
Rude. I don't think the machine can help us anymore.
So far, these 2 single episodes at the end of season 4 of a show called Person of Interest. These are the only 2 instances that I can find of anything filmed inside of Trump's 40 Wall Street copper-topped bank. The bank that a plane flew into just 600 times 60 times 60 seconds before he was born in 1946. What you're about to see is what is called the construct. Demonic influence, which possesses those who work in Hollywood to foreshadow the plans of the devil. You see, the Hollywood script is the dark side version of the Holy Scripture. The devil wants to be like the Most High and elevate himself above God. And God gave us eyes to see these things and to expose them so that you will no longer be deceived. Now, based on our research over the past several years, what has been revealed to me is that Helios, or Sol Invictus, is complete control on everyone that is living there, holding the world in balance by silently killing anyone who threatens that balance. Does this sound familiar? We heard and saw this in the last season of Westworld. It had the same exact theme. Shocked to see Jim Caviezel in this series taking his orders from the artificial intelligence. You see, everybody that makes it through the glass ceiling of influence has already been corrupted. Now, it's interesting because there's an aspect to this when they descend down into the vault of Trump's building. You'll see them going down into a pneumatic tube system. Now, this hot air pneumatic tube system was prominent underneath New York City and Manhattan. They also have one of these in Paris. Go figure, right? Statue of Liberty is from Paris, and we both have pneumatic tubes building. And I began to see the connections between this hot air and helium, Helios, hot air rising, helium rising into the stratosphere. And I began to see this connection in the film called The Wiz that came out in 1978. It starred Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. And The Wizard of Oz explains that he was a politician, a corrupt politician, and then he got his power to be Emperor or the Wizard of Oz when he flew his balloon over Atlantic City. You know, like Trump's casino. And he said that when he went into like another dimension somehow. And then you see that he shines the light. That's Helios. That's the sun god. And that when he got to the wizard, or when he got to Oz, that the people had never seen this balloon before and began to worship him and made him the wizard. And I'm starting to wonder if something similar hasn't happened in our reality. Some machine, helium, Helios, that was shown to these leaders to make them give in to what we're going through right now. So, back to Person of Interest. They're down in the basement, in the vault. Now, this is where they get into the correction or the reset. And they talk about how one of these AIs is planning to reset everything. And that's exactly what CV-19 has done. It has reset everything. Now, this reset is supposed to happen on May 6th in the series. And I don't know how that dovetails in, but they do talk about Supreme Court justices of old age. I don't think she was taken out. Many people think she was. But how does that fit into all of this? It's very difficult to tell. But they talk about the end. They talk about everything catching fire. They talk about a great reset in this last episode of Person of Interest. And just like in many of the other films that we've decoded, they mention keys to the city, which the Brotherhood faction wants to take away from Elias, who I believe is like the Trump character. And of course, Trump loves his keys. Why? Because of Janice, Bifrons, Biff, as well as Gemini. So this goes on. Here are the quarantine mentions over and over again. This place in Columbus, Columbia Heights is protected. It's under quarantine. They raid the location. They find BOMBS as part of the reset as they try to shut it down or stop it from happening. Then there's a blackout as one of the AIs tries to use that blackout to defend itself, but I believe that this is really a metaphor for the VIRUS that was coming and that they knew was coming. Remember, all this came about and aired several months before Trump would ever announce his presidency. And then we get the 5G aspect to all of this, as the workers on the lines don't even look at what they're installing. They never even took the time to understand what was really going on right before their eyes. And everything that we talked about, the copper lines, is coming to fruition as they install these, I call them Trump boxes, the 5G whiz technology that nobody wants to ask questions about, but yet we're all willing to build our own infrastructure of death. And so it turns out that the copper boxes and the copper lines become the home or the brain for one of these AIs that they are trying to save. And this is everything we've been talking about. Abraham Lincoln, the telegraph president, the copper president, under which the transatlantic copper telegraph lines were installed. And here we are, full circle, with 5G whiz and all of the copper that will be needed for it in these towers. So all of the clues are there if you have eyes to see. We've come full circle. Telegraph of 1858, the transatlantic telegraph line, and now copper coin shortages. Most coins are 90% copper. Dimes, quarters, pennies have a small coating of copper. But this might make sense as to why we have this coin shortage. And of course, the coin shortage also has to do with the currency reset. But why would they start with coins? Well, now we know they need the copper to finalize the last parts of our own prison. Because see, if they were to just start building up the copper mine infrastructure, that would raise a flag, wouldn't it? So why not just ask for the coins back and do away with certain coins in order to free up that copper? That would be a lot less suspicious, wouldn't it? So these pneumatic tubes are a metaphor for the World Wide Web. They were the first means of instant communication after the telegraph, and then they were replaced with power lines. Power lines that we could communicate through electronic lines that then evolved into networks, and now we are at 5G Wiz, the network that will change everything. By the end of the season, the machine is downloaded into some hard drives. It is overtaken by the attack. And that's where it ends. The machine. And this is where we're all headed. Take care and be safe, you guys. All right. Let's see what the next one is here. Let's see here. Making our way through how copper became king. So hopefully it's clear now. Copper is king. Let's see what this is. And who is the Copper King? That would have to be absolutely Trump. Let me look up Richard Pryor, because he played the Wizard of Oz in the movie The Wiz, and I want to know if he has any connections to Trump. I think there are pictures of Trump with Richard Pryor, but that's not enough, right? Let's take a look. Richard Pryor. We're going to look at his birthday. See if there are any connections. December 1st, he was born 1940 to December 10th, 2005. He lived to the age of 65. Okay, I don't see any connections there other than the date he was born and the day he died. It's twin, December 1st and December 10th. Really, if you look at that numerically, that's a twin birth and death date. So, wow. Okay, let me get back here with you guys. I don't want to overwhelm you with too much stuff, but that's what I had for you today. Tomorrow, we will get back into the headlines. There have been several new developments as the world feels like it's on fire, doesn't it? There's so much going on, so much happening. And I apologize for the way that was cut up today, but that's how, this is what YouTube does. They copyright everything, and then it gets cut up like that, sliced and diced. And it's hard to make the context out of it, but I think it came through pretty loud and clear with the Person of Interest episode and the current artificial intelligence that almost matches the artificial intelligence in the movie called Samaritan. So we're here. It's happening now. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we pop off of here? Yes, Christy Cherry says, do you think Morgan Freeman is Jimi Hendrix? Yes, there are a lot of similarities. Now, what's interesting about this, if you go down the Looking Glass rabbit hole, which I started to do yesterday, what they're saying is that there are part of the Looking Glass lore is that after 2001, something changed. They could no longer see past the date of 2012. They saw the end, something that horrified them. And when they saw that, they could no longer control reality. Another part of the Looking Glass lore talks about twinning and doppelgangers, and that people are waking up and we're beginning to see these twins and doppelgangers. So don't feel like you're crazy if you think one person looks like another person. That absolutely is happening. We've documented a lot of that on the channel here. So that was a phenomenon that started happening after 2001, the mass sacrificial date of Blind 11. There's also stories of, let's take a look at this. Let's pull up some of this stuff. Samaria, the Sumerians, Shinar, the Tower of Babel. And there was one soldier from the military who said that they went in and found the Looking Glass technology. And so when I started looking into this, the Sumerians and Shinar, this image came to mind. Now, they tell us that this ancient image from the Sumerians represents a sun, is what they say. Oh, it's the sun. But you got to ask yourself, maybe this was the Looking Glass. Maybe this was the Looking Glass. Now, if you think I'm crazy, understand that they are all sitting around worshiping this thing. They're looking into it. You've got this king, whoever this is, who's 3 to 4 times the size of his subjects, would make him a Nephilim giant, likely. And you've got these guys up here holding this object. And it appears as though they're quickening or phasing in and out of dimensions. Look at the way this is depicted. It's almost as if anyone touching it or holding it has this effect. And what is this object they're holding? I'm sure there's some cover story as to what this is. But you have to ask yourself, what is this really? Whoa. So, a little bit more information on that. Okay, I'm back in the chat, you guys. The Conehead Giant, says Just Dave. Okay. Now, why start with the pit? Now, obviously, since that decode in 2020, there have been some developments, right? There wasn't just a coin shortage. They just got rid of the penny. So you're asking yourself, okay, Casey, well, if the penny's only coated with copper, then, what's the deal? Well, there's a lot more pennies out there than there are other coins. That's number one. Number two, we already confirmed that pennies, even though they were only coated in copper, represented like 60 to 80% of the total copper consumption in metric tons in America. That was on a previous show we did in the Copper King series. So if you've been keeping up, you already know this. So there is still a lot of copper on pennies. So they started with that. And yes, they will come for the core of the other coins, but there are far less of those other coins in circulation. So they did it the right way. They went after the penny first. Wow. Why do you think? Oh, now let's start using our brains. Think about this. Okay, Casey, so why did they start coating the pennies with copper? Well, it's obvious now. In the 1980s, they started coating the coppers with pennies because they had too much copper in circulation. If you reverse think this, right, you would realize that, okay, all the other coins have copper cores. Let's look that up. I want to show you guys because you guys need to see this. Okay, copper core coins. So you know that I'm not making this up. US coins. All US coins have copper cores. This used to be so easy to find. Now they don't want you to find it. What percentage of copper? Let's type that in. Got to get specific. What percentage of copper core US coins? Here it is. So here is the truth. Open image in a new tab. Here's the truth. Okay. Nickels, 75% copper core. Dimes, 91, almost 92% copper core. Quarters, 92% copper core. Okay? They're coming for this too, but they started with the pennies. Why? Because there's far more pennies in circulation than any other coin. So that's the low-hanging fruit. And this is why they started coating only the pennies, because there was way too much copper. And the pennies, what happens to pennies? Okay, let's go back into the chat. What happens to pennies? Let's see who has the answer. And then we'll pop off of here. I know this was a long show today, but what happens to pennies? What happened, I should say, past tense. Why would they remove the pennies first from circulation? And how could that fit into what happens to pennies often? No, it's early, you guys. What happens to pennies? Yes, they turn green, but also they end up in fountains. They get thrown away, they end up lost. I'm sure if we did a study, the number one coin that is lost or falls out of circulation that has to keep being repeatedly, minted, it would probably be the pennies because they don't have any value. And so they just get lost or they get stored in a jar somewhere. And they can't have that because then they won't have access to that copper, right? So the first thing they did was pull the solid copper out of the penny so that they're not losing all that copper. That was the first thing they did. And they know that nickels, dimes, and quarters, people don't typically just lose those. Those are valuable. You can make $1 out of that pretty quickly, right? So this is why they pulled the copper out of the pennies and then pulled them out of circulation first. You have to think backwards with these people to understand their plans. And then you can see the truth clearly. Wow. Yes, Susie says, penny jars or change jars. Yes, pennies just get lost. Okay, if you're walking along the street and you see a penny on the ground, you're probably not going to pick it up. But if you're walking down the street and you see a quarter on the ground, most people will stop and pick that up. Because why? Because a quarter, you get 3 more of those, you got $1. You can actually buy something with it. So that's the difference. The pennies were going missing. They were going lost in water fountains and things like this, and just being stored by people. And they were just like, we can't have that. We need that copper back. So, okay, think of it this way. Let's say you had a 5-gallon bucket full of solid core pennies from the 1980s. Let's take a look. How much copper solid pennies would fill a 5-gallon bucket? Okay. 30,000 to 50,000 pennies. Says here, 250 pounds. 250 pounds. So let's see how much 250 pounds of copper is worth. How much is 250 pounds of copper worth? $1,000 to over $1,300. So if you're sitting and you have an entire, do you see now how valuable copper is now? How copper became king? If you have pennies from the 1980s and they're sitting in a 5-gallon bucket, you're literally holding $1,000. Wow. Never thought that happened, would you? So, let's back up here. Let's see. How many dollars is 30,000 pennies? How many dollars is 30,000 pennies? The actual pennies would only be worth $300. But the copper is worth 3 to 4 times as much. So wrap your brain around that for a second. Copper is king. All right, what else is going on, you guys? Gosh, could you imagine? Like, okay, so where would you find something like this? Well, like old people, right? Let's say there's a senior and there's a person that just collected pennies and they're all sitting in these 5-gallon glass jugs. Okay. And like, let's say you buy a house from an old person and in the basement, there's jars of pennies. You'd be sitting on a gold mine. Anyway. You guys are like, Casey, what kind of coffee are you drinking this morning? Chris, you're not banned from the comments because if we can see your chat, then your comments are showing up too. You can't separate the two. So you're obviously not banned. YouTube is the one that goes through the comment sections and will delete certain comments, or what they'll do is put them in spam. And I have to, every day, I've got to go through 1,000 comments and release them from the spam folder. So I have to approve the comments. So if your comment shows up missing, that's why. So, all right, guys, I'm going to pop off here. I love you, and have a great rest of your day. Much love.